Okay, so I'm here tonight with my friend Al del Barrio. He's such a great guy. He's a musician, singer. He's done a lot of interesting stuff with his music, with his band. And he's going to join us tonight in this episode. And we're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about metal. We're going to talk about music and such and such. So, Al, thank you for accepting my invitation. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having
And
me.
for those who might not know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get started with the music?
Okay, well, I started when I was like anybody else as a kid, probably 14 years old. Grew up in the music scene. My dad played saxophone. My I had a tia. She was a famous like norteño cumbia singer.
Okay.
So grew up with that, and then my brother was a hippie, so he
Okay.
listened to a lot of old metal like UFO, Triumph, Rush, Black Sabbath, ACDC. So I got into it from listening to
Do
what
you
he
do you
had.
remember the first non-norteño music that came to your hands, like an album, and you said like, "Oh, I'm blown away by this thing." You
By a
remember?
norteño
No,
one?
no, by a non-norteño one, because you said you have the norteño music because of your family and everything, but you also
Yeah,
told me about you just told me about the hippie.
the metal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what was
my
the first album
Black
ever?
Sabbath.
Okay, which one? Black Sabbath.
Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath was the
Okay.
first song because my brother brought it to me on a 7 inch,
All
and
right.
I would play it like over and over and over again. I was like, "Whoa, this is cool."
That was your
So,
first contact ever
yep,
with. Okay.
yep.
And of course, being
Those,
you exposed to norteño music and everything, it's like, what the heck is this, right?
yeah. Well, where we grew up, we're literally the border of Mexico where
Yeah,
we grew up,
yeah,
and so everything down there was a lot of norteños, a lot of cumbias. Just Mexican music was the thing down there down south. So metal was not something that people would get into down there. That was not the normal.
actually, the other day I was talking to Jimmy Flores. I don't know if you
Uh-huh.
know him. He was guitar tech for Suicidal Tendencies and Infectious Groups. He's played a lot, and we were talking about the same thing because let's say here in Colombia, back in the early 80s when well, in fact the first non cumbia or rumba music that I ever heard or listened to was Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the
Oh,
Moon. And I was
that's
totally blown away by that. And was like, what the hell is this? But anyhow, back then it was so hard because here, or at least here in the town I've been raised and lived in pretty much my whole life, getting music from well, let's say metal, heavy metal, rock, that was so difficult. And being exposed to salsa, to popular music, to this kind of music here, it was interesting to see how a certain amount of people decided to go the other way. So how was
yeah.
that experience in your case?
It wasn't really that complicated because I was not really into the norteños, even though you grew up in it, right?
Yeah.
And ever since my brother exposed me to that, and then I wasn't what when I started listening to that with my older brother. I think I was like 9 years old, maybe 8. So I just started growing up with that, and then we live right by South Padre Island, the beach. So we would skate, and little surfing and stuff like that. So
How
we
was
always did cool stuff with him
how
and
was
my uncles.
how was the music scene back then or there?
The music scene was. Are you talking about like in '82?
Yeah, yeah, back
That
then. Yeah.
era?
Yep.
Okay, well, in the valley we had stores that sold music that you could buy. So my first interaction with finding music that I liked was a Suicidal Tendency record, Motley Crue's "Too Fast for Love," Slayer "Haunting the Chapel," and then "Possessed."
Wow, we're talking about four totally different things, man.
and Running Wild. You remember
Wow.
Running Wild?
Yeah, sure.
So I found all those because I thought their covers were unique. And anytime back in our era, we didn't have the internet, so the picture of an album was what drew
That was,
you
yeah.
to buying.
It was it
You
was
know,
it was like I don't know if you could say uh, part of the whole experience to go
yeah,
and take the sleeves, to read the lyrics, see the pictures and
yes,
everything, say, oh wow, this is. And now that you mentioned, that was something that caught my attention when I got my first Suicidal Tendencies album, which was How Will I Love Tomorrow. And back then I was used to watching this um Anthrax, Slayer, the guys with the black jackets,
yeah,
and skinny guys and whatever. And I was like, who the hell are these guys? And that caught my attention. But what you just told is interesting because you had like different styles, different stuff, and then you got caught by that.
yeah. Well, actually, I have an older sister as well, and my older sister was into new wave music,
Okay.
so I would listen to everything. So from listening to certain Spanish music, and then listening to what my brother had, from like I said, Black Sabbath, UFO, Rush, all that. Then my sister had like Thompson Twins, Duran Duran, the Smiths, uh, Kasha Gugu, those kind of bands, right? So that's how I learned how to play bass.
Oh,
Was
so you
listening to
play
those.
the bass,
Yeah, I play bass and guitar, but
and
I learned how to play it listening to new wave music because it was so easy,
yeah, yeah, sure,
and
of course,
you can hear it really clear.
yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is fun. So that was another part of my journey into the music.
Sure, but what inspired you back then to start the band? Because you started confused back in the 80s, right? The later
Yeah, in
80s.
in 85, 86 is when I originally started it
What
as
inspired
just
you to start the band?
uh there was a couple of bands that we saw, but they weren't thrash bands. So there's a university next to where I grew up, and they used to have a bunch of bands like play outside the university. And I remember showing up one day, and there was a band, and they were playing a Kill 'Em All Metallica album, right? And I was like, oh, this is cool. I didn't know
Was
there
that
was
just for fun, or did they get
there
any?
was no, that was just for fun.
Okay.
And so then I started saying, well, I could do this. So my neighbor played guitar, and then I lived on the other side, and I played bass and guitar. Then we had another neighbor; he was a drummer. So
Okay.
I ended up telling my neighbor, "Hey, man, you want to jam?" And he goes, "Yeah." I came over, and then I just started writing music. All of a sudden,
Oh,
I said,
really?
"Okay,
So you
yeah."
skipped the whole cover?
I didn't do covers. I didn't
Oh,
play
come
covers.
on, that's
No
interesting.
way, dude. I
Wow.
just went straight into writing music,
And back
and
then you were basically bass and guitar, not
yeah, and
you were not singing at all.
no, I was singing. I was playing bass and singing, and then I had
Okay,
my
so you
neighbor
sang and
playing.
played.
Yeah, and I had my neighbor play the guitar. So
Oh,
I um hold on, lost train of thought.
we were talking about the band when you started singing, playing the bass guitar, and
Yeah, but I was gonna say something. Oh, what influenced me to do it was suicidal tendencies, because I was like, whoa, these guys are fast, and they were cool, and their lyric concept was neat. So I wanted to do something like that. So the first song that I wrote was called "Slit Your Wrist," and
is this from 80 90 90 the album?
no, this is
That
from 85,
No,
86.
no, no. What I
So
mean is that because I was checking, you have an album which is 80 90 90, right?
yeah, that was the first time we went into a real studio.
Oh,
So
but
we
that was
released.
not from that back.
No,
Oh, okay.
there's
All right.
there's more stuff that's gonna come out that's from way back that we haven't
Oh,
released it yet. So
okay. Wow.
yeah, because back then we also did cassette trading days. So we had all these cassettes, and we would trade them out. But we had somebody who came at one of my shows back in 2015, and he handed me two old tapes, one from 86, 87, and the other one from the 89, 90. And I was like, holy crap, I haven't seen those things in forever. So
Wow.
we had the 89, 90 remastered,
Wow.
you
That's
know. Yeah.
there's a treasure there.
Yeah, so that's why we released that one. But the other
Okay.
one, we haven't released it yet. So we're still trying to clean it up, and see if we can make it sound decent. So,
So you go straight to writing your music.
hmm
Your your band is basically described as for fans of Agnostic Front, Suicidal Tendencies, and MOD.
yeah, yeah.
Why these influences? How do they influence the music back then and right now?
Well, for me, I mean, that was my generation, right? So, when I first, like I said, when I first heard the suicidal tendencies, I just liked the flow of the music. I was like, this is very skate punk. This is something that I like. And as far as Agnostic Front, when I first heard them, was on a compilation called Bullet
Okay.
from Combat Records. Way back in the days, and they had Eliminator on there, and then SOD was on there. So that's when I started listening to SOD and Agnostic Front. So that was also back in the 80s. So what drew me to them and the style that I write is, I guess, the influence that I sort of put together sort of blends in with West Coast, East Coast kind of feel, and I don't know. That's just
How
what came
how,
out.
how has
So,
the band sound evolved throughout the years?
woo, man. So we've
Because
gotten a lot more.
before you told me, I was listening to some tracks from 80, 90, 90,
Yeah.
and then I was listening of something from oh, what's the name of the other? I'm sorry, the other
Behind closed doors or riot.
Riot.
Yeah.
And man, you can tell differences between the sound, the
Yeah.
yeah. So how could you define the evolution of your sound throughout all
Um,
these years? Because it's been like what, 30 years.
I was just trying to be a little bit more, when I was working on those two newer ones. I wanted the sound to be more like, in between join the army and, uh, what's that other one they have? Lights, camera, action. The
Oh,
guitar
let's have a
kind of feel.
let's have
Yeah,
a revolution.
yeah. And but I was so influenced with the MOD, USA for MOD,
Okay.
and I would listen to Billy's music all the time. I was like, man, you know, this I like the way that the Tim, the guitar player at the time, played on that album. I was like, man, this guy's good.
MOD,
So
SOD.
the MOD USA for, oh, which one do I like the best?
Yeah,
Ooh,
that's
no,
a hard
I'm
one.
not. Yeah, I can't. I like them both, you know, and I think the USA for MODs is fucking hilarious.
Okay.
I like that one a lot, but I mean, but you cannot say that SOD, Speak English or Die. I mean, that's one of the most legendary songs that you can't ever get out of your head,
Yeah.
or Pussy Whip, or something.
In fact, I remember back then, uh, when MTV started, they used to get the tracks from SOD for the
Hmm.
for the for the like the intros. You remember?
Yeah.
They were like the
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 dun,
march of
dun, dun,
SOD. Yeah,
dun,
oh,
dun,
that was
dun,
eh,
dun, dun.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was great. Al, the San Antonio music scene. How has it shaped or support your journey as a musician?
Well, I mean, San Antonio's pretty cool. I mean, we've never had any problems. I'm not originally from here, so but as far as the scene here is amazing. I mean, it's big. There's a lot of people, man, go to the shows out here. Not just Confused shows, but everybody else's. There's a lot of good support here. My hometown is way down south by South Padre Island area, so that
Okay.
area always gets packed. um, Corpus Christi, great scene also. Houston, Dallas, Austin. Dude, Texas has always been very supportive, man, with the music. You
from
know.
from the bands that were formed back then with yours, friends of yours and everything, any other bands have survived to the date?
Um, well, if you ever heard of Dangerous Toys,
No.
that's a notorious Jason McMaster from Dangerous Toys. He's also uh the front man for Watchtower from back in the days, and he's also Igniter. Evil United.
Okay.
These are some of the heavier stuff that he's done, you know. And oh, Hellstar is still out there doing what they're doing. And of course, you can't forget Houston, Texas DRI. You
Oh,
know,
of
they're
course. Of
still
course. Yeah,
thrashing
sure.
it.
Yep.
Good friends, you know.
Wow.
So
Have you played with them?
so yeah, many times, you know.
That's
So
another thing that oh man, in Spanish we say something that's envidia de la buena. Like it's a
okay.
good way of envying you because here, when we grew up watching, well, when we got the first albums and the first videos, listening to the music, it was like, oh man, these guys are gods. You're not gonna be able ever to meet one of these guys. They're doing such an amazing job, and you didn't even realize back then you were struggling the same way over there, pretty much.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but the interesting thing is that you, growing up there, you have the chance to pretty much watch that closely and
They all
being
they all
closer.
hang out at my
Oh man,
house.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
In fact, Billy Milano hit me up yesterday, and we're doing a South by Southwest together
oh
in
come on.
Austin. And then yeah, he asked me to do 2 shows with him. I said yeah, and then he asked me to do a 3-day run with him in April. So we're gonna do a 3-day run in April with them.
Wow, that's amazing. The other
So
day I was talking to a friend of mine who lives in Austin, Texas. Is
mhm.
Carlos Ramirez. Is a guitar player for Internal Suffering.
Okay,
They played in the House of Blues there in Texas and everything.
in
And
Corpus or in Dallas.
I think both. And he told me the same thing. He told me experiences that he has had with guys like Billy Milano, in fact, with Dave Lombardo, and it's like, oh man, this has to be so freaking cool. You've worked with them, right? Not only,
I
yeah,
I've worked with Billy, and I've done stuff with Kurt, like helped him out with his other band, Pasadena Napalm Division. In fact, I think the time that I helped Kurt for his band Pasadena, DRI was playing in Colombia, and he asked me, he called me and says, "Can you help me out and play my show for me?"
wow.
So I was his frontman for his other band, and that was a total thrill and an honor to go out there and do that for him. So.
So these kind of collaborations,
Mhm.
how did those collaborations come about? Like with Billy Milano, with Luigi Majorca, you
Yep.
co-wrote or helped
Yeah, well,
recording
I
Surfing
co-wrote a
Tsunami,
song.
right?
Yeah, I
Awesome
co-wrote it.
song.
So thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. He
So
wrote the music, and I wrote the lyrics, and I sang on the album.
yeah,
So
how does it start? It's like you're hanging out or you just
uh,
bump into each other and hey, what's up? Would you like to write a song
no,
with me?
well,
Or
actually, when I was playing a lot, you know, and then I started playing the South by Southwest in Austin stuff. This was years ago, and Billy was running a bar called Headhunters there in Austin, and then he stopped me one day, and then we just started talking, and I was holding a MDC 7 inch in my hand, and he goes, "What you got there?" And I go, "MDC." He goes, "Let me check it out." He goes, "Nah, it's all right." And then he just started talking. He goes, "We played shows together, right?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Man, we got to do this more often, you know." And he goes, "I like your band, Confused." And I go, "Okay, cool." He goes, "Well, give me your number." And then we switched numbers, and then all of a sudden, for years, he watched my kids grow up. So
wow.
he spent every Thanksgiving and every Christmas with us.
Ah, that's amazing,
So,
man. That's
so yeah,
amazing.
and that's how that happened. And then Agnostic Front, I went with a friend of mine to go see him here in San Antonio, and Roger was backing up the van, and he went up the curb, and then he went back down and pulled out, and then we walked inside the venue and stuff like that. And I heard Vinny say, "Oh, just because I'm from New York and I'm Italian, they're gonna make me spaghetti here in
Okay.
Texas."
Yeah,
So
you're supposed to eat of
barbecue,
course. Come on, you're
you
there.
know.
So
So I go, "If you guys want, I mean, I was real nervous. I go, I can cook for you guys, you know, if you want, you know." And then they all looked at me, and I was like, "All right, time for me to go." Right, so I moved to the side, and then Roger comes out there and starts talking to me. He goes, "Hey man, let's go walk around down the river walk." And then we walked a little bit, and then we hung out and talked for a while. And then he asked for my number. He goes, "Let's go inside and do a shot." Went inside, we did a shot, and then from there on, Roger called me and says, "Hey, me and Roger and the Disasters were coming into town." So I made him a feast at my house, And then we just started hitting it off from there. So they've come and hung out and done stuff, which has been really cool. We've toured with them. That's been awesome. So yeah,
How's the experience of going on tour with
it's a lot
this?
of fun. It's a lot of fun. I like it. I like it.
Any regrets? Not at all.
No, no, none at all.
Worth
So
every single minute.
I'm sorry.
It is worth every single minute you're on tour.
Yeah, I mean they're good memories to have, and then it, when you think that your music's not good enough, but then all of a sudden people want you around, and then you're like, okay, I'm doing something that's good.
Yeah.
And then anytime that you play out and you're somewhere else that you've never been, but then the crowd starts reacting to you and they come to the front,
Wow, that's
then you know you're doing something right,
yeah.
and those are the kind of reactions that we would get, and then we would look at each other like, okay, we're doing our justice, and then we would just move on to the next one to see it. And so yeah, every time we played with these guys, it's always been fun. It's always been great, and the reaction's always been fucking
That's
awesome.
that's awesome. What's something that you have learned from working with these iconic musicians? That's like a life lesson for you. It's like, oh man, uh, I'm so glad and blessed of having shared these experiences with these guys, that I've learned these things right now, and that I can use them either for your music or for your personal life.
I think one of the things that I learned is, don't feel that you're not good enough when you're out there doing it, because most bands will go out there and then if they get criticized by two or three people or whatever, they take it to heart and then they quit, right? So you got to go out there and just feel like, that you can handle yourself. If they can handle themselves what they're doing, you can handle yourself as well. As far as anything else, um, I didn't learn anything else because I have been doing it all along by myself. So I really didn't learn anything else yet.
How long has been the longest you've been out from home when you're
Probably
on
about a
tour?
month. About a month.
Oh, that's not
Nah.
that long. Okay.
Nah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
But Texas is huge, so when you're driving, you know, like say San Antonio to El Paso, that's like what 600 miles,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then if you're gonna go to El Paso to the next place, it's probably another 300, 400 miles. So you're constantly on a long drive.
Okay.
So so you tend to find places that where you can make a trail and you don't have to go, you know, 3, 4, 6 months on the road. You can sort
Plus,
of, you know,
plus,
budget yourself.
plus for a family guy, I
Mhm.
bet it's right now nowadays it's easier because you just grab your phone, talk to your wife, your kids, and whatever. Hey, where are you? It's pretty much hard to become homesick anyhow, right?
Yeah, I don't get homesick, but
Ah,
yeah,
well, yeah, I'm just telling because you never know what happens. Uh,
yeah.
if
We
go ahead, go
No,
ahead.
no, go ahead,
No,
go
no,
ahead.
no, go
No,
ahead,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was gonna say a long time ago we had a guitar player that was always homesick, and I was like, dude,
Oh
we're only
wow,
like 3 hours away, bro. Like, what the hell? I want to go home,
wow.
kind
Can
of
you
shit.
imagine if you went on a world tour? Wow, that
I'm, I'd be stoked out,
well, I
you
know,
know.
but I mean for this guy.
Yeah, he's not in the band no more, but yeah,
Okay.
that'd have been hilarious.
Right now, if you could collaborate with any musician or a band, living or
Ag-
not,
Agnostic front, Roger.
mm,
I'd love to do something with Roger, and I would love to do something with Kurt from DRI.
cool,
So
cool.
I did it with Billy Milano. I've done it for Luigi, with Louis Seidel. I would love to do it with Roger, and I would love to do it with Kurt. And I'd really like to do it with Mike Muir from Suicidal Tendencies. That'd be cool.
Are you friends with him?
Nope, never met him.
Okay.
Never met him. So
Would be interesting. Uh,
hell yeah.
let's talk a little bit about music education and influences. Um,
Okay.
when I go back in time, when I started, back then it was so freaking hard to find information about how to play guitar. In my case, I love the guitar ever since I remember. Especially metal guitar. It was like, come on, nobody here does that. For drummers, for bass players, for musicians. Back then, there was no internet and everything. And most of the musicians here have been pretty much like self-taught, right?
Yep.
How's been your experience in this field? Have you had any
So the
formal
same.
musical education?
Self-taught. You know, my guitar player was self-taught. Everybody was self-taught. It was just by ear. Everything we would listen to. You know, so that's mostly how a lot of my friends that I grew up with learned.
So
You
raw
know, so
talent.
yeah, big
That's
time.
awesome. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Your biggest inspirations, both when you were learning, both for your instrument playing and for your singing.
My inspiration, like somebody that inspired me
Yeah,
to
when
want to do it.
I remember, it sounds silly because I remember listening when I was a little kid, listening to Pink Floyd, and I was listening to those guitars, and I was, man, how do they do this? This sounds. Remember listening to Judas Priest, to Metallica, and
You,
everything. But I
you
read.
know what? You know what's funny that one of the bands that would inspire me a lot, and I know it's like a loop, was Loverboy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
I just liked the way they played their music. You know, it was really cool. You know, the roles. I love Montrose. Sammy Hagar was also another big one too. You know, and of course I grew up with Van Halen because of my brother.
Yes.
You know, so everybody knew those kind of bands. But I think Rush, you know, because I've never heard anybody play a bass the way that guy played it. I thought it was pretty cool and unique. Um, and you know, there's just too many bands that
Especially
inspired me.
when you compare music styles and you find that the richness of the
Hmm.
music is another story.
Yep. The Smiths. I don't know why, but the Smith always drew me to something, and also the Cure. You know, was another one. And maybe because of the way the bass was played, you know, it just felt like the Cure used the flanger a lot, you know, and there's probably one or two songs that we've used the flanger in our songs, you know, so you tend to get inspired, you know, with certain things that these bands do. Like, whoa, that's cool,
Yeah.
you know. And I remember in our younger years, is we there's this place in the Callan, it's called Hermes Music, and since we didn't have the internet and all this stuff, you just had, you know, Hit Parade magazine or whatever, the newspaper, and you just look through it, and they would have a section of the newspaper for music. So Hermes had Vicious Rumors coming down, and this was back in the '80s, and that's when Vinnie Moore used to play guitar for them. And Vinnie Moore he's a solo artist, a guitar solo artist, but he also plays for UFO now.
Yep.
But I remember going to that seminar he was doing because he was sponsored by Ibanez Guitars.
Okay.
The minute I walked in there, and they you draw a ticket, and I had a ticket, and the minute I sat down, they were calling out numbers, and I won his pedal, his
Oh, that's cool.
distortion pedal.
That's
Yeah, I
cool.
was like, oh man. So, but yeah, that was cool. You know,
That's how I got my first gem guitar.
oh really?
I went to a guitar center.
Hmm.
They had this BB clinic for EQ or whatever professional sound,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, let's go there. And hey, we're giving away $1,000 in merchandising from the store. Okay.
Wow.
And back then they had this gem Steve Vai 777 guitar,
Yeah.
like down for $1,500, and I got the freaking bonus, the freaking price. Like, oh, immediately I want to buy this guitar. That's how I got that one, and
Dude, that's
that's
awesome.
something. That's also something that because I lived in the States for a few years. That
Yeah.
is something that you would never get here, man. It's like
Yeah.
you want to find, back then you wanted to find a guitar, go see whomever got an old guitar, maybe you can borrow the guitar from them or maybe rent it. And that was
Dude,
so freaking
but
cool.
winning that was probably like you won the lottery, because that's how I felt when I won the pedal. You know,
Sure.
like, oh
And
yeah.
in fact, the first pedal that I had was how do you call this, from a pawn store, here,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was back in 1989. A friend of mine
Hmm.
told me, "Hey, Mike, there's this pawn store in downtown, and there's a pedal for guitar, and I was like, I can't believe you. That's impossible. And I went there, and it was like for $2. It was like,
Which one did you get?
it was an Arion Metal Master. Oh man, that was so freaking cool.
Yeah, I still have one. Oh man, I moved it. Damn it! I moved all my equipment out of here for the
Yeah,
Christmas tree.
yeah.
The,
That's
the
el
only
San
thing I have
Tinto.
the only thing I have hanging is my BC Rich and a bass.
Okay. Man, how do you play those guitars? I never got the feel of playing those guitars. I think I don't know, or maybe the ones that I had played in my life back then. The neck was so hard, man.
Yeah, dude,
How do
this
you
one's
do
like
that?
it's super heavy, right? But what I did is I dropped the strings really low to the frets,
Okay,
you know.
the action.
So yeah, so it made it easier, you know. And I don't play with these three fingers. I play with my pinky and this
Okay,
one.
all right.
So I keep it open a lot like that. And if I'm gonna use like a bridge or whatever, of course, then I'll use the.
Beautiful guitars, awesome sound. But somehow I stuck with Ibanez, and I've loved Ibanez ever since. For young musicians out,
Mhm.
what would be your advice for them about making through the scene, finding their sound, uh, getting somewhere with their music?
Okay, one, accept the criticism. Okay, you have to accept it because if you don't, and people say, "Ah, man, that sound like shit," or "You suck," or whatever, and they give up. So always accept the criticism and use it as a positive, and say, "Okay, they didn't like how this is going. Let me go work on something and see if I can make something better out of it." You never want to give up and just try to drop it because somebody said that you're not good enough. Always look and push yourself forward. Don't give up. Because you give up and then you never know. You might have been the next big thing, but how would you know you quit?
and,
So
and even if not, it's something that if it's something that you love, why
yeah.
giving up, right?
Yeah, if it's something that you love, stay doing it because
Yeah,
you love to do it, and who cares what anybody thinks about what you do? If they don't like the way you look, well, I'm sorry, I don't
yeah,
like the way you look.
yeah. Go,
And most of the time, when
go
people
somewhere else.
throw it, yeah, when people throw a negative at you, it's because they're the ones that are miserable with their lives because you're
Yeah,
doing something and you're just having a good time with your life.
yeah.
That's usually what happens.
Totally agree, man. Any upcoming projects or releases? You're
Yeah, we're actually gonna. I wrote a. We got two new ones that we're gonna release as singles. One of them is called "Skate in the Mayans."
okay.
Okay, and that one's pretty cool because my vocals is gonna run like a Mike Muir vocals,
Okay.
and then the rhythm
Mike
is
Muir
really cool.
from which era?
It's gonna sound like
Because
it's
it's
from
changed, man. You can say, okay, the very
well,
beginnings, the
it's gonna sound in between the still join the army kind
okay,
of kind of feel, but with a little bit more huevos in the
okay,
mix of it.
okay.
So yeah. The other one, the sound of it's got a very old school SOD MOD sound. So that one's really cool. Billy sat here in where I'm at right now. He was like, "Oh shit, that one's really good."
Hey, bro.
So he freaked out. He told me, he goes, "You're the only one that still writes like you're from the '80s, bro." He goes, "How do you do it? Your styles always sounds like this, man." And he tells me, he goes, "You need to call Roger." And I go, "Why?" He goes, "You need to tell Roger, man, that let you write his music." I'm not gonna
Wow.
call Roger. Roger writes badass stuff, but I mean, just hearing him telling me this stuff, it just makes me like, wow, that's pretty cool. That Billy puts me on this little
Yeah.
pedestal thing,
Oh,
and
that's great. That's awesome. Come on.
hell yeah. So.
After 30 years in the
Mhm.
scene, working with your music, the things that you love, pretty much ever since you started writing your own music, which is something very amazing. What keeps you motivated? Keep on creating, performing, going there, giving the best out of you.
I had stopped in '93, right? Like I did not pick up an instrument for 6 years. I didn't touch an instrument. And then some of the guys that used to play with me back in the days, they wanted to play some shows. So I booked some shows in San Antonio, and then I got that itch to play again. So when I started doing it, like I just couldn't stop. like things were just clicking in my head, like to write music. So I started writing songs and stuff like that. And then the guys, they were telling me that they wanted to play, that they didn't want to play in their little circle back home, that they wanted to go out and play. And I told them, I said, look, I go, if you want to do this, I said, you have to commit yourself to stay in this. There's no, I quit. You're playing too many shows. It's if you're gonna do it, stick to it and do it. And so we went through some changes, man. It was rough ride. We went through a bunch of changes, and it's always been me and my drummer stuck together, And right now, I have my old guitar player from '93, and I have my old guitar player from the '80s that are playing with me right now.
Cool.
And so there's you got literally four originals in Confused right now, and then the bass players from San Antonio. So we decided that we're not going to be picking and choosing where to play, but we're going to make sure that it's spaced out enough that when we do it, that it's worth our time, and it's worth every day of ourselves being out there doing it. So
You mentioned 5 years of a kind of a hiatus
yeah.
for a 30 something year period. It's
Mhm.
nothing. It's like
No.
20% of the time. So that's
Yeah, my wife and I, we had a brand new baby, so I just wanted to kick back and
some stuff for new songs.
yeah. So yeah, we just stayed like that. But then um, ever since I got back and just playing, I watch the news, and the news pisses me off. So then I tend to write lyrics,
Okay.
or I write music,
Okay.
and that's how it works.
Okay.
Like I'll just sit there, and then something pisses
Well,
me
man, a
off, and
lot of
then I'm
stuff
I'm
there
writing.
to get from. So don't
Yeah.
don't get me started. Is there any milestone or goal you're still chasing? You say like, oh come on, it's
Um, I play. It's really no goal. I just play because I love to play, and I committed myself that this is you're either a lifer or you're not a lifer at doing the music, and whether people like it or not, I'm gonna keep putting it out because I love to write music,
sweet.
and yeah, eventually the goal is we want to go play out in Europe and Germany. I wouldn't mind going out playing with you guys over there in Colombia with you guys. We all got our passports. We could all go over there and chill with you and
Man,
barbecue and
whenever
you know.
you are here, feel free to let me know. You can crash here whenever you want. The
Appreciate
way
it.
you say mi casa es tu casa, so
Mhm.
it's a small, cozy, but man, this is filled with love, and you're always welcome here.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
When music is your life, your passion,
I
when
love it.
you're not making music, what are
Hmm.
your favorite things to do?
I own two flooring stores,
Okay.
de piso.
Yep.
So I have two stores. So yeah,
Oh,
that's what
so
I do for a living.
okay. All right. All right.
Yeah.
How do you stay connected to your fans? Because I pretty
Um.
much sure.
I, well, I just got into that TikTok stuff because my daughter told me you need to do this, and
Yeah,
I said,
sure.
all right. So started doing that. But Facebook, you know, um, I have my personal, which is under Al del Barrio.
So
And
if people right now want
yeah,
to
they
hear
can add.
your
Yeah,
music, know a little bit more about you, where they can get you. The easiest
they
way
can.
to find your music, to find your stuff.
The music, you can go to Spotify, or you can go to iTunes, or um, I mean, it's everywhere. So
Okay.
I don't know all the other platforms, but there's a lot. It's all over the place. You can find it anywhere. You can go to the Confused page. We have a Confused page on Facebook. My Instagram, it's under my name. So I don't. That's usually, if anybody's gonna find me, like you could just look me up under my personal name. That's
Okay.
usually where anybody who sends me a message.
Just
I'm
pretty
not.
much the way with it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not.
I was
I'm
like,
not one of
oh,
those.
see. If you never
Yeah.
know who's gonna reply, or like, oh, okay, nah, I'm not interested or whatever. It's been
I
it's
had
been
some people. I think they were from Chile, and I guess I accidentally hit the dial button right on the thing, and I said, "Oh shit!" So they answered it, and then I said, "Hey, hola, qué tal?" And I told them,
Oh.
Alfonso del Barrio, con mucho gusto, and stuff like that. Oh, they freaked out. Like, they
So
were so
you speak
excited.
fluently Spanish?
No, I
Oh,
don't speak very
not
fluent
at all,
Spanish,
just a little
but I
bit.
could, yeah, I could get by,
Okay.
So
All right.
so I
All right.
started talking to them, and they were really excited just to hear,
Cool.
from me, and they asked a bunch of questions, and I told them, I said, pues, no hablo mucho español, pero
Un
poquito,
poquito.
and so they started trying to tell me a
You
little bit.
relate with that, and it's like, oh, come on, and yeah, that's awesome.
I Yeah, I try to, and I try to answer as much questions for them, and they were just excited just to hear. There was like a group of 10 of them, and they were just all together. So I thought that was really neat. So yeah.
Wow, this has been a very interesting and nice conversation. I wasn't expecting this to go the way it went. I really appreciate you for accepting the invitation once again. And
Oh, thank
if
you.
there's a message you'd like to leave to all of the people who are watching right now this video, what would it be?
Support my brother right here. Keep him going. It's awesome. Thank you for having me on your show, and keep on thrashing, man, and support the music.
And
Never give up on.
we have a song coming,
You have what?
Insania.
Yep, we're
Yeah,
doing a song.
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's gonna go good. So I just need you to send me the track the way
Yeah,
you're gonna have it.
I'm
You know
just
what?
getting a little bit better from this thing that had me for like 2 weeks now. So once
But yeah,
I feel fully recovered, I'm sending you the tracks. Al, thank you very much for being here
likewise.
tonight with
Thank you.
us. It's been great, and looking forward to talking to you soon.
You got it, brother.
Take care, man.
All right, man. Peace out.
Uh,
Later.